now we are going to paint it. So I just set up some painter tape and just so I don't get paint anywhere, and we're gonna do white. We're gonna be using a roller and a brush for the corners. Probably brush all the corners first and then roll it. But first, we're gonna wipe it down with rubbing alcohol in a towel to make sure all of the dust and the sanding dust is off of it. Let it air dry real quick, and then we'll get started on painting. So let's do this. Ugh, my allergies are killing me, guys. Okay, I have my ledges nice and glued on. They are clamped down right now. So we're gonna go ahead and paint everything else. All right, we're back at it to do the second coat of paint. To save all my paint stuff, I put it in plastic bags. I put my brush in a plastic bag and I made sure not to lean it on anything so it stays still a circle. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take the clamps off, and then we'll sand this, and then we'll go ahead and wipe everything down because of sanding. Blech. And then we'll paint the second coat. Yay. Okay, so we got our 2 coats of white paint on it, and then I actually did end up sanding the outside of it and made the surface really smooth. Not as smooth as I wanted, but we used 120 grit. Also, I added some wood filler to some little corners here and there that weren't as smooth and filled in as I would like them. So we're really gonna try to get this perfect. I really want to make these cabinets as smooth as possible. So let me show you what I did. So wood filler all right here. I'm gonna sand this all down. I put them like just in these little cracks here and there and over here, and I'll sand it down and make it nice and smooth. And I sanded all of this. It's a lot smoother now. I didn't do the inside. I'm not really worried about the inside. I think we'll sand these down, and then we'll add another coat of white paint, and then we'll sand it again. Okay, so now we are going to do a coat of polyacrylic on there. I actually did a coat yesterday and I hit all of the spots outside and inside of the cabinet. So this is what we're using. I'm using satin. We'll do a second coat and then we'll sand it, and then we'll do a third coat and then we'll sand it, and then we'll be done. Also, this is the brush I am using. Keep it clean, very smart. You don't want to find dirt in all your polyacrylic coats. I keep it in a plastic bag after I wash it to keep it clean. Also, make sure you do a really thin coat. You don't want drip marks. Okay, now while we're waiting for that polyacrylic to dry, so I do have my ceiling panels right here. Just haven't installed them, obviously. So looks like I do need to cut them down just because of this board down here. So I do have 2 slits that I want to go right here and one right there. So I cut them We'll cut them down, we'll sand them, and then we'll get these attached to this via the ceiling, so it'll just hang down. So yeah, it's all coming together. Hopefully it comes in together perfectly. Nothing's perfect though, so as perfect as I possibly can get to it and get it. Alright guys, do y'all see this corner here? So yeah, I can use wood filler to fill that in, let it dry, and then sand down to a perfect corner. So remember, you can fix your stuff with wood filler. Wood filler is your friend. First I found the center of this board, and then I lined it up where I want it to be, up there on the cabinet. Then I drew lines around it where I want it, because it's not always flush here or on the other side. Then I drew some lines. This is where all my screws are gonna go. Alright, so I've got some holes and some pilot holes, so we are sunking these in, and they're going to cover them with wood filler so we don't see them, just like everything else. Alright, now we're going to put wood filler over the holes where all the screws are, and then we'll be done for today. Alright, so my wood filler just dried. So let's go ahead and sand the wood filler down. Yeah, so I put the jig holes in. Now I have them set up where I can paint them, and I actually don't need to paint this underside. So we're going to go ahead and paint them white. We'll do 2 coats white, 3 coats polyacrylic. Obviously not all today, but that is the gist of it. So I did my 3rd coat of polyacrylic on the big guy. Now we need to start some polyacrylic on these guys. We're gonna sand this down with 220 grit. We're gonna need 3 coats of polyacrylic on these, and then once that is dried and clean and looks as beautiful as the big guy, then we'll put them together, and then we'll put it in the van. Yay. Okay, I just finished sanding and wiping it down with a wet towelette, and it's really smooth. Like, it's really nicely smooth, but I don't know if you can see, but it's just like not like the appearance. There's like spotches and such from the sander. I don't like that. You see, it's just not it, you know, like this shit. So I think I'm gonna do 1 more layer of polyacrylic, let it dry, and not sand it. It should turn out smooth, and we'll be done with the big part. Alright, so I just finished doing actually 4 coats of polyacrylic and on the 2 T-pieces. So what I did was I did 2 coats of polyacrylic without sanding, and then I sanded it with 120 grit, then I sanded it with 220 grit, then I threw another coat of polyacrylic, and then I sanded it with 220 grit, and then I threw another coat of polyacrylic, and then I didn't sand it, and now it looks really good. Now we are going to get some screws in there, screws here, screws on the other side. Now, let's go ahead and put wood filler in. I actually want to sand this a little bit just to get this nice and even. All right, we got everything polyacrylic. I did 2 coats of polyacrylic without sanding. It looks fine. This one obviously isn't perfect. You can still see it, but this is the top. I'm not really worried about it. I'm not gonna be able to see it as is. And then over here, it looks pretty good. And then over here, it looks pretty good too. So, next thing I did was I actually measured where all of my skeleton is on the wall in the van, so I can see where I'm gonna screw in, and I measured a bunch of spots where it's gonna hit, and then I brought that measurement to over here, so I put some dots down onto our this is what I'm going to be screwing in to get into the van. So I put some dots of where it'll line up, and now we're gonna do some pilot holes, and then we're gonna install her. Also, these are the screws I'm using. I'm using 3-inch screws by 10. They're pretty thick and big, and I'm hoping they'll be strong enough to hold it to the wall. Alright guys, installation day. Woo. Follow the seams. Yo, sick. Here we go, guys. Check them out.
Close enough. Alright, I'm gonna go. Look at that.
Right?
Would you just look at it?
Guys, could you look at it?
Just look at it. Looks so good. Alright, this concludes this video of building the structure of the cabinet. But yeah, I'd say this is a success. It looks leveled, it looks clean. I don't know if I'll put L-shaped brackets on the bottom. It actually looks pretty sturdy. We'll see, we'll think about it. Anna's very excited. Okay, well thank you guys so much for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my builds and van life stuff. Thanks so much and have a great day.